Okay. Alright, we're about to go live with Nina from Reunion Mixed Race Events. Let's see, just waiting for her to join. Let's see. Well, let me invite. Nina, I think you have to ask to be invited. There. Just having a hard time getting connected. Hold on one second.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. It just told me it couldn't connect. I was like, what's going on? Okay.
Yeah, well, hey everybody, hey Charmaine. So I'm glad that we have connected so quickly
Yeah.
because this is never easy with its Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, today we made it relatively fast. So yeah, I'm so glad to see you and all the people that will hopefully join the live or watch it as a recording. So yeah, for those of you who don't know what this session is about, we're going to touch upon a topic that I think is kind of universal for all the mixed people, no matter where you are, which is amazing considering that we have such a vast mix of ethnicities and cultures. But certain patterns remain the same everywhere.
That's true.
Just like this one. So we're going to talk about liminality, which is, one of those terms that if something like mixed race blueprint for life existed, or kind of a dictionary, would definitely be there highlighted. Because, well, when I looked at it the first time, I was like, well, this is basically what I've been through more than once in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Officially, liminality is this, we could call it a rite of passage. So it's this time when you are new as a mixed race person or just a person in a space, and you do not have any kind of a status or like a rank, so to speak, there. And therefore, you are required to follow specific rules or norms of that space. And you're supposed to be the good one, the
Yeah.
obedient one, and the humble one, so that you could get the stamp of approval. The way other people behave, that's not mentioned in Luminality, but we can all imagine, right?
Yeah.
Today we are going to basically talk about the impact of this on us as mixed race individuals, and uh, also to offer you some solutions on how to do this the right way, because liminality and kind of embracing liminality is not the right way.
Right. Yeah, when you first brought up this conversation topic with me, it wasn't a word I was familiar with at all. And then reading the definition, I was like, this like,
Yeah.
ouch. Because it literally says to show obedience and humility inside the definition of the word. And I absolutely can see how you connected it to the mixed race experience. So yeah, let's get into it because ouch.
Ouch, ouch,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, when I first saw it, similarly like you, it just gave me an immediate ick, like a
Right.
little, like when electricity
Yeah,
can
yeah.
hit
Yeah,
you.
I really felt like the hairs on my
Um,
skin perked up because
uh, you can
the
just
you can
imagine.
imagine periods of time like for since I grew up in America, there's certainly periods of time where this would have been absolutely taught to any minority group, not just mixed people, like,
Yeah,
stay under the radar, behave.
yeah,
We talked earlier about respectability politics as being something that came through this as well. But and in this country, I also say we're like reverting back to some of those harsher ideas
Mhm.
too from back then. But in places like where you grow up, where there is such a monoracial dominant, and the division
Yeah.
between majority population and minority population is not only really obvious, but like you're constantly reminded of
Oh
your
yeah.
like place or whatever. This would, yeah, this is absolutely a good topic for us to have.
Yeah, I think so because once you define something that's happening, then you can spot the red flags. Because
Hmm.
liminality, in no way, shape, or form can really help you. Embracing this kind of politics, this kind of agenda that people try to impose on you, it's only benefiting those people, never you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I mean, what hit me about the reading the definition was my experience, as you mentioned, from a country which is predominantly white and monoracial. I was born in Slovak Republic, and as a child, I would often hear a phrase, well, minorities adapt to the majority, not the other way
Yeah.
around. And this
Yeah.
is what some people actually believe is a way of getting on. This is like for you to do. Well, there is also a harsher version that the minorities
Mm.
should just shut up and kick it,
Yeah.
which some people also say even to this day. And surprise, surprise, Slovakia is a country which has a pretty big problem with segregation in
Mm.
education and other areas of public life, with a very bad relationship between the
Hmm.
minority, particularly the Roma minority that lives here, and the white Slovak majority to this day. And a solution has not been found. So
Hmm.
I think that liminality, that's kind of like in that society, is that problem. It's not a solution to anything to basically just to succumb to something. But as we mentioned, like we are often, because if you are born into this and it's all around you and it looks like a normal thing to do,
Hmm.
sometimes
Absolutely.
we start to buy into it subconsciously or consciously.
Right. I mean, indoctrination starts, doesn't matter where you're from, you
Yeah.
start being indoctrinated from the moment you're born. And sometimes that looks like religion, sometimes that looks like social standing, priority, class, caste, all those types of things. And, in the state, I mean, I have two immigrant grandmothers who have completely different experiences coming to this country because one grandmother was a white immigrant and one grandmother was a Japanese immigrant. And
Mhm.
and even in my experience as a mixed race person, depending on who I'm sitting with, what side of the family I'm sitting with, I'm either throughout my childhood taught to like stay under the radar so that people don't think, she's one of those black people, or even
Mhm.
like on the Japanese side, behave a certain way so that people didn't realize that I was necessarily my grandmother's granddaughter, because what if they could tell I
Mhm.
was black? So there's all these things, that's a different version of what we talked about offline about like the respectability politics things of training yourself to behave a certain way, uh, just so that you don't draw too much attention to yourself. Sometimes that's cultural, but sometimes that's literally like the social norm is for the minority group to stay small and the majority group to define life. And um, in America, we've had the illusion for so long that we're this melting pot, that,
Mhm.
everybody was welcome here, but it was never that everybody was welcome here. Immigrants were welcome
Mhm.
here when they served a purpose, but when they,
Right.
a labor purpose. But if they stopped serving that labor purpose, or if there was an illusion that they were having benefits that maybe poorer white people weren't having, then they had to
Mhm.
either get out or behave a different way. I think and me not having the experience that you've had, but just what I've seen in media for such a monoracial experience, that idea that you have to adjust to the majority. How can you adjust to the majority if you're not even included in decision
Yeah.
making, policy creation, education standards? If you are segregated, you're never going to have those chances. And so you can
Yeah.
behave as good as you want, or what we would call in the States like soft shoeing and minstrel. You can pretend to be everything that the white man tells you to be, and you're not going to get the status that you think you're going to get. And that's illustrated very heavily right now in the deportations and the incarcerations that are happening for people that are perceived as illegal immigrants right now. A lot of those people voted conservatively. A lot of those people voted for, I just like to call him an asterisk because he's not
Yeah,
he's not the idea of what a president I think should be in this country. When they voted for him, they thought they got a pass. They thought
yeah. They
that
thought they
that
got the rank.
yeah, and it would be like, oh my
America.
gosh, you would know. I think you even said before, like, you would know I'm one of the good ones. So why would you arrest
Yeah.
me? Why would you detain me? Why would you take my family? And I don't know. It happens so often in history that people who
Hmm.
behave this way still get the mistreatment, and they're always stunned, and
Hmm.
it's continuing to happen. I don't know if it's as quite the case in a situation like the country that you're from, but you see it here a lot, and you're just sitting here going, how did you think you were going to pass? How did you think this was going to work for you
Yeah, yeah. I
being
think
president?
in Europe, I think it's universal everywhere what happens in Europe. For example, now in a country where I live in, there is a very famous, well, slash infamous politician who is half Japanese and half
So
half
I looked him
Eastern
up after you
European.
told me about him, and he's the epitome. This is exactly what we're talking about. Like,
Yeah, this is
oh my
like a textbook example of this, and I
god.
think that maybe somebody who uses those people, well, they know them very well because those people who take advantage of this ugly wave of politics, and it's not just in politics, it's also in other environments like education, culture. They know this type of people who want to fit in,
Hmm.
people who want to get that stamp of approval because they want to feel like they're on par with everyone else. So
Hmm.
they are willing to basically uh, follow the rhetoric, like and pretend it does not affect them because
Yeah.
they behave as they should, but they don't see that what liminality does. Liminality, it's basically a mechanism to keep you in one place, to keep you out.
Yeah.
This is not an inclusive mechanism at all, so whatever you do, if you support liminality, these people think that, oh, I'm supporting my inclusion, but you're supporting the
Right.
opposite. You're supporting
The
your
opposite.
exclusion
Yeah.
because you're that voice that justifies your people that exclude people from your group. you
Yeah.
know you're still in that group. You're not in the inner circle just because you laugh at inappropriate joke or just because you defend someone who is blatantly, I don't know, xenophobic or racist or
Mm.
whatever it might be. No, you're not in a group. You are giving that person power to one day turn against you, and use it as justification of their opinion. Like, oh look, well,
Hmm.
he was fine with that, so that means I am right, and he knows it very well. It's just very callous. But I understand how can people slowly be brought into this, and we live in times where we can see uh, how uh, uh, how this happens, like how people are literally kind of slowly led down the rabbit hole of ignorance and prejudice, even as a minority, and they are put to this position of like, uh, hey, you are the one who's really objective. Like you're the good one because you see all these flaws in your group, and that makes them feel like when they acknowledge the flaws exist, that makes them feel like, oh yeah, I'm on the up, right? And I now these people will see me for who I am and recognize my value. But no, what they really recognize is their stereotypical view of that you help justify.
Hmm.
This does not lead to recognition. This does not lead definitely to seeing people as individuals. People
Hmm.
are called aliens by some
I know.
these days.
Right.
Uh, and it's just a very toxic, but very, I would say, very callous and unfortunately still very effective way to keep
Hmm.
people out.
Absolutely.
Uh,
When you mentioned this politician, I looked him up, and his name is Tomio Okamura. He is
yeah,
half Czech and half Japanese, or at least he was born to a Czech mother and a Japanese
yeah,
father. He lived in Japan for a little while. He came to the Czech Republic. He was mistreated.
yeah.
His, I guess, mother died, and then he ended up in an orphanage situation. He ends up back in Japan for a period of time, and then he goes back to the Czech Republic. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a quote that he says when he as his life develops to where he is trying to be accepted by the Czech people generally is
Yeah,
that he says, I wanted to show people not to judge me by how I look, but what I know and what I can do, which is something that like mixed people, we want to just
yeah.
be, we just want to be judged by it. But then he goes on, and I tried to highlight it, but I missed it. And then he goes on to say something about like the only way to show the Czech people that I was basically one of the good ones was to cast away that
Mm.
heritage, like put it down, put it away.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have that experience in the United States as well, when you try to perform within a group so that you can be accepted. But what it almost always ends up looking like is like a puppet show. It,
Mm-hmm.
with our current president, when he parades a black person that is a Trump supporter, or he parades a
Yeah.
Latino person that is a Trump supporter out there, they look like minstrels. They look like a joke, but they're thinking they're convincing the rest
Yeah.
of us. See, you can be one of us, you can be a part of
Yes,
us,
they
but
are
we
part of
can
a
see
group.
that you look like
Mm-hmm.
a joke, right? It's not, it happens all over the world. I mean, I didn't even know about this person in the Czech Republic until you mentioned him, but there's also the recent prime minister from the UK who was South Asian. It was one of the big parts of the news a couple years in the last
Oh,
couple
yes, I
years,
remember him. Rishi Sunak.
Rishi Sunak. And, he's a conservative South Asian. He also has an extremely rich wife. So a lot of his politics is supported by his wife's family. But the way he would put down essentially his own people by more
Mm-hmm.
aligning with the idea of being a British citizen versus what his ethnicity
Absolutely.
was, he was willing to put policies in place that harm people who look like him just for the appreciation and the acceptance of the Conservative Party in the UK. And the same thing was going
Yeah,
to happen. You were never going to be
absolutely.
enough for them.
Absolutely. You know what happened when when the supporters of that party did not like some policy,
Hmm.
they would refer to him and
Yeah,
other members of the, minority members
yeah,
of the party as children of the immigrants.
yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, here we are. Here's what you people have supported. You have supported your own exclusion by, letting other people to make you feel so insecure that you will denounce a part of you, a part
Hmm.
that like shows on your face and that basically is part of your family's heritage. Like this is a gesture of like putting yourself down.
Hmm.
You're not helping anybody. This in your definitely not anybody in your community.
Hmm.
You're not helping the wider society in any way because you're that person that will be used for the dirty work. You're that
Yeah.
person that will be used to, bully other members, who are from minorities in your workplace, in your group. I don't know. It can be even like a group of friends. So basically, you will be that kind of individual that will do the things that other people wouldn't do because they don't want to look bad, but they know that you are so desperate to prove yourself constantly to fit in that they will make you do it. And this guy, for example, he does that. Apart from the quotes that he found, well, there is a lot more. from his political activities.
Mm.
He produced an extremely racist, xenophobic campaign, which included billboards that portrayed African immigrants as some kind of like a dangerous killers. They were literally displaying a black guy with a blooded knife and saying like, we do not need this kind of surgeons here, you know. So
Yeah,
he's just willing to go down and drop to the lowest low. And this is an extreme, you know, like this is an
sure.
adult, but
Yeah.
when I think this is happening across all the age groups. Unfortunately, even if you are a mixed race child, you know, you can end up in this position when you hang out with who are, well, racist friends because, you
Yeah.
know, you are afraid you will not find other group of friends,
Right.
particularly if you're in a place that is not diverse, that is just like white only, like
Right.
in these countries. But it can happen even in America because there are towns that are predominantly white or religious,
Hmm.
or even other ethnicity than white. You know, it can happen with anyone.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've met people throughout doing the show in the United States that grew up in rural communities where they were the only brown person because they were mixed, and so it is the same regardless. I think how we can put this concept, I mean, I know we talked about a lot in politics, but how we can put it to like just the little tiny regular mixed person is
mhm.
a lot of times our families are our first bullies when it comes to racism. Like
Mhm.
we if we come from interracial parents, that means we have
Yeah,
monoracial sides of our family, and those people, whatever their views are, may not reflect the same views that your parents had when they decided to have you. Or, I mean, you could have also just been an accident or something like that, and they weren't intending to make a mixed baby. But a lot of us get bullied by our own families, the
yeah,
monoracial people in our own families, before we even get out to the schoolyard, before we even get a chance to be bullied by other children. And then when we are bullied by other children, that also determines how a mixed person, is going to possibly identify. In
oh
my
yeah,
case, my
true.
situation is a little unusual because I have two biracial parents. All my aunts and uncles are mixed. All my cousins are mixed. I lived with a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles throughout my life, and my grandparents. So I grew up in a military family, which in the US tends to be fairly mixed as well in some cases.
Hmm.
So I was always around mixed people. So even if you did try to bully me for one or the other, I could get through it a little bit easier, I think, than some of the other people. Even my brother has a entirely different experience. We're mixed exactly the same. I
Hmm.
was accepted in blackness. He wasn't. So he had ideas growing up that were very anti-black, and I didn't, but we grew up in the same household.
Okay.
We just had completely different experiences. So when that stuff is happening to you, first you're being bullied by your family, and then you're being bullied on the schoolyard as you're trying to form your identity. That idea, bringing it back to the liminality of behave, don't don't stand out, be humble,
Yeah.
defer to the majority, whatever that is. I think those ideas are formed both by what people tell you and by what people show you. And so it makes you feel like
Mhm.
if I just behave this way, I notice I don't get as much heat. So maybe if I continue to be small, uh, I won't have as much heat. But then later on, as your things to form, you start to create resentments about part of what you are. And so it's hard for you to exist as the full picture of yourself. And earlier today, you posted and tagged me in a post about, I wish I remember exactly what the
Oh,
post
the
said.
clothes.
Yes.
Yeah, if you are with one foot in space and one
Hmm.
foot out, where do you stand?
Yeah, and
Stuff like that.
where's the rest of your body, kind of?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
one of the people replied to me sharing it, and they said it's under the door. Basically, like if I'm standing between, everything falls underneath. And I thought that was a really great response
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
When you have
Thank
to
you.
sit there and decide what you're going to be, and that could be based off of what you look, or the neighborhood you live in, or what you're around the most, you end up either inadvertently or intentionally causing harm to people who look like you or look like people in your family. And in doing so, you're also causing harm to yourself. And I think a lot of mixed people don't realize that that's happening until they find mixed community. Once they start to find mixed community and they can kind of heal from a lot of that damage, that's when they start to realize, oh, I was like my own bully at some point because,
Yeah, because you are rewarded for it. You are
yeah,
socially
yeah,
rewarded for being your own enemy in a way.
hmm,
Because people, some you have racist friends, they will be happy if you let them push your boundaries. If you
yeah,
let them make comments and jokes that harm you, because like I don't know, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that on that kind of spectrum, so I don't know what kind of pleasure they get out of it. But I think it's something to do with power. Some people simply like to
yeah,
feel powerful that way.
I agree.
That they see that they found somebody who will just succumb to them, who will let them insult them, and just who will let themselves to be fooled that this is going to help them in some way,
Yeah,
even though they know the truth. And at one point they will show you the truth, but they
yeah,
usually sometimes at that point, well, it's too late, and we can see in US what that can look like
yeah.
how serious it can be.
Because it
So yeah,
starts so subtly, like the longer it stays subtle, the more
yeah,
surprised you are when it becomes overt. And sometimes that jarring experience of the first time it becomes overt, your natural response is the fight, flight, or freeze, right? So
mhm,
either I'm going to fight you because you said this horrible thing, or I'm going to leave because I don't want to be around this toxicity. But most of us in that situation freeze and we're
yeah,
stuck in it. And the longer we stay stuck in it, the next time that person does it, they think it's okay because you didn't fly, because you didn't fight, right? And
yeah.
so it continues to be the thing that drags you down.
Because
And
you make
throughout the years of
excuses
me,
for it sometimes.
hmm and throughout
Yeah.
the years of me doing the show, there's been kind of a trajectory across the whole show. When I first started Militantly Mixed, because there wasn't other mixed podcasts and because people weren't having these community-based conversations as much, I was encountering a lot of people that hadn't spoken to another mixed person in their life outside of their family, or maybe they never even saw another one because they lived in a rural area that was monoracially white or something. And the difficulty of them, even as they're attempting to reach out to community, coming onto a show
Mhm.
about mixed people, talking to a mixed person, they would still say things that would put themselves down or put whatever their brown people was down or something
Mhm.
like that. And I would catch myself in these conversations being like, oh well, I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what you just did to yourself, like. And in doing that, I think I learned how different mixed experience can be when you're not in community. I
Oh,
accidentally grew up in mixed community because my entire family was mixed, but a lot of people didn't have that. Now, as the show has progressed and we're having more conversations, there's more platforms dedicated to mixed identity. There's conferences, there's books written and stuff. I think now people aren't as well. I guess I'm going to generalize here. I'm not encountering as many people who harm themselves overtly as I was in the beginning. Not to say that that isn't
that's
still
fantastic.
happening. You know,
Mhm.
it absolutely is still happening. But I think the benefit of having open community is that people are starting to think a little bit before they bully themselves.
Yeah,
And maybe it's also
absolutely.
helping them create friendships that are more valuable across general life, but then maybe also identity. You know,
Mhm.
as I have grown my show, I have encountered people all over the world. You are one of those people that I encountered, right? And I would never have been able to comprehend some of the stuff that I wouldn't have thought it up, some of the stuff
Yeah,
that you had to experience until I got a chance to talk to you. And I think the first time I talked to you, you either were still living in the UK or you had just left it,
I
possibly.
just left it. Yeah,
You had
left
just
it.
left it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so you like that was a whole nother experience within your mixedness that you had coming out of the UK versus when you went
Yeah.
back to your home country, right? And man, I'm so glad for the opportunity to do a show like this because it gives me an insight. Also even today you shared a politician that I hadn't wasn't on my radar, but now I need to pay a lot of attention to because he's causing a lot of harm in his own,
Mm.
in one of his countries that he's from. And being able to have this conversation globally also shows you, like, I don't want to say how far behind, but like someone from where you're from can look to what
Mhm.
happens in the States and see
Yeah.
like where the trajectory of what you're experiencing might go to, if your
Oh,
country
yeah.
becomes more diverse, potentially, right?
Absolutely.
um, and then now we're reverting back to to the
Yeah.
ways that it used to be, and so we could actually look across the ocean to be like, oh, how are you maneuvering this so that we can,
Mhm.
this is a way, community wise,
Avoid.
we could be looking after each other.
Yeah, so you
um
don't repeat the same mistakes.
yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
because it's very easy. I think, in America, I think one of the perils there is, basically collective memory. They do no
Hmm.
longer have that collective memory from like those times when it was really bad.
Hmm.
So people are comfortable, and sometimes it's a little dangerous to be this comfortable,
I agree with you. Yeah.
because tolerance, access, respect, that's not guaranteed. That's not,
Hmm.
like, of course, you like to consider it normal, but there can be other normal,
Hmm.
that some people in countries like mine still experience. A normal of being second-class citizen, a
Hmm.
normal being excluded from many places. For example, when if we talk about Slovakia, I once read a survey about how comfortable would people be working with somebody who is of African descent.
Hmm.
And like what was the percentage of people who would be comfortable? And it was 50%. So that's not great.
50.
50% of all the respondents would be comfortable
Okay.
with working with somebody who's black. I think around, well, I don't know the number, but it was a lot less when they asked about somebody who's LGBT. And,
Oh.
so there is and these are things which are long term. So
Hmm.
this can also be normal, and liminality causes this. And once you start embracing liminality, empowering liminality, like it can go very quickly. I think that this is what you
Hmm.
are unfortunately experiencing in
Hmm.
America, but you still do have more knowledge than us. But you can now see just like how quickly can status quo change, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden all the things that you thought that were past, things which were behaviors which were condemned as shameful and wrong, they're
Hmm.
suddenly perfectly fine, and people feel like brave when
Yeah.
they speak their mind. They're not so politically correct and all this
Hmm.
kind of stuff. And this is how we are hooked on it as people
Hmm.
of color. We're kind of made to feel guilty for wanting to just have some respect towards us.
Hmm.
uh, and if you are, and it is made easier for these people who want to push us into this way, if we are isolated.
Hmm.
And that brings up another point, like what's the real solution here? Like the real solution to build some kind of like a status, to build that respect so that everybody wants an individual is not liminality, not
Hmm.
embracing, what
Yeah.
excludes
Put a
you,
big
but
circle with an X
community.
through.
Yeah, yeah. But
I
it's
think community is
yeah,
the opposite of that, right? The best way that they can keep us down is to keep us isolated. That's why,
absolutely.
in a weird way, segregation puts us all together, but also isolates us at the same time because there, with segregation, I think well, it's a mixed bag. But the negative side of that, I think, is that they make you feel like you're being watched. So you have to behave a
Mhm.
certain way so that they will leave you alone, right? And if you're
Yeah.
feeling like you're being watched and you have to behave a certain way, it's harder for you to even create community when you're literally just surrounded by people who only are like you.
Yeah, and this is what sometimes family does, like telling to
Yeah.
children, like you behave because the teacher will remember you. You
Hmm.
behave, you do not associate with these people because they are bad, even though it doesn't have to be true. But
Yeah.
there are these kind of insecure ideals in families as well.
Yeah, it's the panopticon. It's the idea that even though you can't see who's watching you, you're being watched, and so you
Hmm.
have to behave a certain way or you'll be punished. With what I've noticed or what I've experienced in starting the show and having like 11 people who knew me listening to it at first to it
Hmm.
eventually growing to having, a couple thousand people listen at a time, the what I've noticed is that people who I encounter are bolder about their identity in the way that I can say I saw people be apologetically mixed when I first started the show, and I'm seeing less of that apologetically mixed person now. And I don't credit it to just my show. I credit it to the fact that people finally started to build things around what they needed. I created Militantly Mixed because I needed the community. I make the joke that I really just wanted to make friends, and so I pretended
Hmm.
that I was starting an important show, but really I just wanted to make friends. I just want to make friends. But that's community building, right? You're trying to find people that have something of a similar experience so that you cannot feel strange, you cannot feel isolated, you cannot feel weird. And it doesn't matter with mixed people, it's complicated because we're not always the same mix, but there's boxes we all tick. There's experiences we almost all seem to have. And again, those are generalizations, but they're generalizations that
Yeah,
come from a place, right? Like
yeah.
I do sometimes say that some stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason, and that
Oh
reason
yeah,
is we see them
absolutely.
happen a lot, right? And so in searching for community, specifically mixed community, um, what I've noticed in like the Free to Be Fest, the recent event that I was a co-planner on, uh, people were all different kinds of mixed folks there. And yet we all nodded our head when someone said an experience that they had. A lot of us shared something similar about an experience. If they're looked at sideways by the cops all the time, if they're asked, what are you? If they're asked where you're from, these are things that are very typical, at least in, Western mixedness that we experience. I assume it probably happens in Europe too, possibly. Not
Oh
just
yeah,
like the UK, so, like
yeah,
asking
because
where you're from.
Europe and America, they are historically, they do have a lot in common because America was settled by who? Europeans,
Yeah.
a large part. So yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
recognize them
So
patterns.
having that experience, there were people that were just kind of embracing, I mean, other strangers that were in the meeting because they were like, oh gosh, you just made me feel like I wasn't the only person who experienced this. And I think mixed people who grow up in isolation, that's the thing that makes it so hard for them to exist in their full picture of themselves. When I use the term be your mixed as self as the model for the show, I do add the little caveat of like whatever that means to you is fine. But
Mhm.
I also know that whatever that means to a person could mean like this politician that we talked about, Okimura,
Yeah,
that like
yeah,
it could mean I need to eliminate my Japaneseness so that I can be Czech, right? That's not necessarily the spirit of be your mixed as self, but
no,
it is where some people are at, right? And
yeah,
so the problem he has is that he doesn't have community that supports his full picture. If he's in one country, he's a foreigner. If he's in another country, he's bullied for looking strange compared to everybody else.
true.
And that that experience creates a bully, and that is why he is doing what he's doing in the Czech
Oh,
Republic.
absolutely.
With the Free to Be Fest being about sort of general mixedness, people just got to relax in comfort and community. Oh, we're all kind of the same, even though we have different ethnicities, different cultures. In a couple of
Mhm.
weeks, I'm going to be going to the Mixed Asian Day, which is in San Francisco this year, which is a smaller version of that community. It is
Mhm.
mixed community, but is very specific to a mixed Asian identity. And across Asia, we're all different too. So we're going to come together knowing that some of our Asian countries are enemies to each other. And yet here in America, we get to not have to carry that
Completely
burden.
different dynamic.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We don't have to carry the burden of where our families are from, and we can just enjoy each other. And for me, I would say I get different things from both of those experiences. When I get to be in mixed community, general mixed community, like through my show or through Free to Be Fest, I get to feel like this is what life actually was like when I grew up, because I had two biracial parents and
Okay.
uncles and aunts and cousins. When I get to do something like Mixed Asian Day, I get to tap a culture, an aspect of of my culture that I don't get to overtly experience or walk in very often. I get to
Yeah,
walk
the
in like
mainstream.
American
Mm-hmm.
blackness more than I get to walk in Asianness or even Asian Americanness. And so this is going to be my way of getting that community. It's filling the hole that I have in my identity to a degree. Um, what you're doing, when we talked earlier, you talked about like your community being small and everything like that. And I think it's mostly small because you're just getting started and you have a bigger range of places that you can tap. Like all the countries are close together, so you can actually cross the same amount of land territory as I could, but you'll be interacting with people that are speak different languages, are in entirely different countries, have different cultures. And so it might be a little bit more complicated for you to create.
Well, it depends. Well, if somebody speaks English, then it's not a problem. I've
Fair,
had
yeah.
a life with a mixed race individual from France, who spoke great English. So reaching cross culture was not a problem. Like there was no language barriers. That's really the only barrier that I
Mm-hmm.
have
The
here.
language could be, yeah.
Potentially, well, but I do speak four languages, so I mean, I still can get by even without English in some
Mm-hmm.
cases. So yeah, but for me, well, I came to community building for the reasons what did you mention, but this is a joke. But this
Mm-hmm.
was my motivation. My motivation was simply to find friends who are like me because I never had that growing up. I was that one, black kid in a white classroom, in a white
Mm-hmm.
school, like on the street. Oftentimes, the only black person on the street, only black person. Well, apart from my father, mixed race
Mm-hmm.
person in my family as well. So I really needed to fill that void, and that's why I
Mm-hmm.
started networking. So
Yeah.
for me, this was completely, and I think it's like it still is. It's completely like a personal project, which
Sure.
has kind of taken life of its own,
Mm-hmm.
because I first, I came to right environment. I came to London, and it wasn't like just to do this, to find mixed people, but I wanted to experience life in some big city. And
Mm-hmm.
once I was there, I thought, well, actually, I'm gonna, look at how people from African diaspora uh, actually exist. Because in an environment where you do not have that,
Mm-hmm.
what you have is
Right.
stereotypes, fear mongering, and I was just tired of it. Like I thought, like honestly, like if you don't have any access, you are in this crazy headspace, thinking, is this really true? Like, is it all
Yeah.
that bad? Are they all this
Yeah.
dangerous? Like, I'm just gonna take a plunge and I'm just gonna see for myself. And of course, like then you come there and you realize, like, oh, actually, this is a normal city. People are
Yeah.
not just like running around in gangs or something. Uh, and people get on like across the people get on better than in my racial country where everybody
Mm.
is competing with each other and quarreling easily and is being mean. you know
Yeah, I
so
suppose in a place like where you're from, it's far more obvious when you're quote different,
oh yeah.
from the majority. Whereas like in London or in most of the bigger parts of America, like you can't you there it's so spread out that sometimes a racist would have to decide what is the one they hate the most so that they can target they can
Yes.
target that, where it does give us a little bit more of an opportunity potentially here to find community, even if it is with someone who's not mixed exactly like you, or
Yeah.
even maybe just even from like maybe just even an immigrant, because I think the immigrant experience when like you're born somewhere else but you grow up here early on from childhood, you become sort of a mixed person yourself, right? Because now
Mm.
you're living in two different cultures and you're having to adapt at home, your home culture and your public culture and everything. So like our experience is very broad, but you can boil it down to a couple of things that we can all sort of relate to, and in doing so, we can really help support each other. We can improve each other's mental health just by existing and just being here. Like having this conversation between you and I can be a boost of both of our mental health because we're like, oh
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah.
we have continents and oceans dividing us, and yet here are these things that we have in common. And so you can say, oh, I have this friend in America, and their life is not always entirely different from mine, and I can say that too
Mm.
about you. And I think I mean that is the benefit of being able to create these platforms, is that it gives us a chance to meet friends, but also to improve our identities and our mental health because we're not alone. Like we've finally realized we're actually not alone in this.
Yeah.
And I think it could potentially embolden people who might have been sucked in by Liminality to um, be their mixed ass self, to like come
Yeah.
out and be who they are. I think that is a benefit.
Yeah, to finally, like in case of this unfortunate Czech Japanese guy, it may make people like that to finally be like, damn it, let me just embrace them also Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try to impress my friends anymore by just singing praises about one country. I'm going to visit Japan and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it can really help like remove some huge mental blocks that
Yeah.
because what is happening in this case, in the case of that guy, it's just there's this is I think response to childhood trauma
Mm-hmm.
and then also a result of not having anything to nurture you, to nurture
Yeah.
your like mixedness, because mixedness is a real identity. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
not any kind of like a confused state of being. It is a
Right.
real identity, but as every identity, it needs to be nurtured.
Yeah.
I read this Instagram post, which was amazing the other day, and it was from Dr. Jen, and it was about telling children who they are. Tell your children what is their mix, what's their like
Mm-hmm.
category, because if you don't tell them, other people will tell them, and other people
Mm-hmm.
will get it wrong, and they
Yeah,
will
and you
be
don't want
confused.
other people to form their identity for them. No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, one, this man needs therapy for sure, but the nurturing element, I think what you're saying is the important thing. If someone doesn't come in to you, to your childhood, like when you're experiencing the trauma, and show you empathy, and show you what could be beautiful about you if you accept yourself, then you turn out to be like this dude. I keep gesturing because I'm staring at a picture of him because he's on my
No, I
computer
mean,
screen. Uh,
he's got
but
a certain
like,
very bad magnetic energy. I don't like you.
yeah. And it's
You-
like I enjoy meeting mixed people. I love to find out about. Obviously, that's what I do on my show. But when I see a mixed face, I get excited because I'm like, ooh, I wonder what their story is. I want to get into it. And if I encountered this man on the street and we started to get into it, I would probably try to bond with him by being a mixed Asian as well, or specifically a mixed Japanese, only to find out that he's on a completely different political spectrum than I am. And then I'd
Mhm.
be like, either I'm going to fight this person because we're going to have a big argument about
Yeah,
like the way he is making things bad for both himself and people like him, or
maybe
immigrants in general. I
yeah,
assume he has an impact on all immigration within that country,
mhm.
um, given
Like
the
yeah,
billboard that you were talking about. So,
yeah,
like, I, man, yeah, he needed someone to hug him as a kid, basically. He needed someone to
yeah.
tell him it
And
was
tell
okay that he
him
was the way that he was. Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, this 100%. I think Actually, it would be interesting to see like his reaction and reaction of people who have this kind of like very suppressed kind of mixed race identity and who are basically traumatized and do not want to, even deal with the fact that they're mixed and hate being reminded of that in any way, shape, or form. Like if they have finally had an opportunity to be somewhere where there will be only mixed people,
Hmm.
nobody monoracial to tell them the usual stuff, and when they would just observe how people who are mixed and who embraced their mixed identity interact. And
Hmm.
I think it would be kind of like a little revolution for them, because mixed spaces are just so different in terms of how they approach mixed race identity. Just like
Yeah.
how you just said, like if you meet somebody who's mixed race and you see that they might be mixed, you get excited. But you don't go to guessing games because you know that's just rude
Yeah.
and you know you know how unpleasant that is. So you go about the conversation very differently.
Yeah.
And I think like the person who is not used to that, like they already wear this kind of like defensive armor. You know,
Yeah.
some people in Czech Republic who are people of color, just mixed, they like to use humor, but like that wrong kind of humor,
Yeah.
you know, to sort of shield themselves.
Hmm.
They try to, laugh at, ignorance, hoping it will go away. And it's
Yeah,
like,
that's that performative, like I'm one of the good ones kind of thing. And I think
yeah,
that's fairly
yeah,
universal too. Like if this person's gonna make a joke about a stereotype of what I'm mixed with and I play along, then I'm one of the good
yeah,
ones and they'll leave me alone. But
yeah. What about
literally
me?
bullying you into feeling like if I behave better, they will behave better and they won't. They just
No,
won't.
no.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a colleague of mine that I used to have in my workplace who was married, who was from an Asian background, monoracial guy married to a white woman. And this woman, unfortunately, had no respect for his culture. And
Mm,
she would not express this to his face, but she would express this behind his back. And
yeah.
in one of their exchanges, like they tried to, he tried to be, the cool person, the cool person of color who doesn't get offended by everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, that's the box. So he was trying to cosplay that, and he was like, "Yeah, well, we both like racist jokes. We laugh about it because we don't care." And then, like, they just, it was just a 5 minute conversation showing you just how very naive and just like how harmful this is because they started to talk about like going to her country and going through the customs at the airport, and she was just like, "Oh yeah, customs, no, it's not a problem." And then he said like, "Yeah, you mean like for you it's not a problem?" And
Yeah.
I could immediately know, I immediately knew what he was talking about. She had
Yeah.
no clue. And
Yeah.
the worst thing is that like she would then continue in this way, and she actually said a racist slur about he was Indian, and the racist slur begins with P and ends
Mm,
with I. I will not repeat in full,
I know what you're saying.
and we all just froze,
Oh
and
gosh.
it just went. And she didn't even notice like how bad that was. He also froze. It wasn't funny to him at all. But
Right.
because he embraced liminality, he embraced being put down, she didn't think it was wrong at all because he
Yeah.
was that, in such a submissive position
Yeah.
that he would put up with a gross insult from somebody who then became his wife, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It that
uh,
is amazing to me because
that's
I
shocking.
also saw that in my own family, the monoracial people that were in interracial couples. And I would always think like, what would be my version of that? Like I know I would not be able to have a relationship with someone religious because I'm not religious. And
Hmm.
that opposition would make aspects of our life together very difficult. And so for me, I just wouldn't go down that path because I wouldn't want to be a bully to my partner
Yeah.
for something, but I also wouldn't want to be bullied by my partner. And also, I think there's also a certain respect that we might not have for each other because we have such different beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
If I think about that in terms of like that would be my version of it. Like, and so my version of it tells me just don't go down that path. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
you won't inadvertently cause more harm to somebody because you do like them. There's just this thing about them that you don't like. For
Yeah.
to date someone or marry someone from a different race when you neither respect their identity or
Okay.
anything like
Culture.
that, when are you going to learn to stop being that bully? That
Yeah.
like when people say like mixed children are going to save the world from racism,
Oh
no the
my
fuck they're
God.
not.
Please.
One, because our parents might be racist towards each other and towards us, but also you're just creating more types of different. We will find, as humans, we will find other ways to continue to be hateful to each other. So putting all of it on, hey everybody, if we just mix and we have mixed babies, the world will be a better place.
Yeah.
The world will be a
We were
better
not taught
place when
about
people
our
stop being
identity, but
ignorant.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so it's insane. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No,
and
oh, this one,
I
I
hate that
forgot
for
about
him.
this one. Thank you.
It, every time I actually heard it recently from a mixed comic that I respect, and when they said it, I was like, "Oh no!" And then I felt like, is it my responsibility to send them a DM now and be that person that was like, "Well, actually, mixed babies aren't gonna say," like I don't know. It's just
No.
I haven't heard it in a while, and then I recently heard it, and it was so jarring to me that I was like, oh gosh, this is one of those battles that we'll continue to have to fight for a long time. Like we're
Yeah,
not
because
we're not
it's
responsible
also
for saving the world.
yeah, it's also a kind of like liminality, although from a different angle. Like you are this special
Right, right.
person and you're on these special roles. Like we can all act like an absolute jerks, but it's your job.
Yeah,
No longer our
yeah.
job. So like make a
And
better
also
living
it's
space.
such an unfair responsibility to put on a specific group
Oh,
of people, right? Like
sometimes
I,
you can
I would
accept it.
yeah, yeah. It's wild. But I
Yeah,
would argue that it's all of our collective responsibility to deal with this issue. But the
absolutely.
problem is we're human and by nature we tend to try to find in group out group. We just find different ways of creating in group out group, and so
Of course.
if it's not this it's something else, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I think like really like the only thing that can help the world to heal is when people start to function more as a community and not like enemies, and trying to one group trying to push other group down and make it feel like they always need to perform and do a little extra or a little or a lot more extra. This is never going to work. Like networking and understanding each other is the only way. And I don't know. I think that we started to do these projects at the right time because we spoke
Hmm.
enough to kind of uh, have that kind of active knowledge in our minds and to have this healthy identity in a world which is like very prepared and very well equipped to try to mess you up.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
you just need to we need this network. We need to know the right people because, as you said, sometimes if you find yourself in an environment which is toxic, maybe even your own family, like
Hmm.
it's going to be very hard. And there are
Hmm.
people now living in households where they have to meet family members that voted for kind of their demise.
Yeah, yeah.
There are people in these countries like mine in households where they've got family members who tried to test your patience using examples from abroad, from countries like America as well, because they
Hmm.
see it in the news, they see these abrasive behaviors. So we have something on our plate, and I think this is the real solution to like uh, keep networking and keep talking and having this kind of like normality still in your space to
Yeah,
counter all
yeah,
that all the stuff they're doing.
yeah.
Oh, can you believe it? We have like
Just
how long left?
yeah, just
No,
like a
oh
minute.
no, oh, this is always done so fast. It's criminal. Instagram,
it
really, what
it
it
did
did
go
to
by
us.
really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but
Thank
oh,
you
I'm
for
just so
inviting
glad.
me into this conversation. It was I guess, a word I wasn't familiar with, but certainly a concept that I was. And, it's good for us to be able to collectively have these discussions in community and everything. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, and I'm glad that you were interested and you even made an effort to research distasteful politicians from Czechia. So, head off.
As soon as you said it, I was
Definitely
like, I got to find out who this person
man.
is. My
Yeah,
Google search literally was mixed Japanese Czech politician, and he popped up. So it worked.
yeah. No, he's made a name for himself in all the wrong ways possible. Congratulations on
Yeah.
you. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Big
just
time.
best to dissect it and hopefully help somebody who would be tempted to follow his example. Do not.
Do not do not do this. Love yourself, and that will help fight against stuff like that for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. What we do, well, we have a better idea
Yeah.
that we present here. Okay, Charmaine. Well, thanks again. And I hope you have a lovely weekend. Good luck with your studies. I will be
Thank you.
following you, stalking you, and cheering for you as you go through this. And yeah,
I,
hopefully at one point we will talk again or engage in
yeah,
some
and
way.
hopefully one time we'll see each other in person. Whenever I
Yeah.
travel, I do try
Oh,
to find out if someone is there. So I'll try to travel close enough at some point. Maybe we get a chance to see each other in person.
that would be lovely. That would be
Yeah.
lovely. Definitely keep me in mind.
Yeah. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend. And
You
everybody who will
too.
listen to us, thanks to you as well.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.